You know, in the early years of Canadian film, we knew there was going to be Canadian American productions. And this goes back about 54 years, and we talked about Dan Curtis's Dracula, which was filmed in Yugoslavia and England. But this movie was filmed actually mostly in Canada, and of course it has starred the great Jack Palance in The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the 1968 film. Now, this production is a Canadian-American TV film based on the 1886 novella Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. It was directed by Charles Jarrott, again produced by Curtis, and written by Ian McClellan Hunter. Now, this was one of a series of adaptations of fabulous novels done by ABC. Now, it drew a lot of critical acclaim and was nominated for several Emmys. Now, Jack Palance plays Dr. Henry Jekyll and Mr. Edward Hyde, with the great Denham-Elliott of Mr. George Delvin, Leo Genn as Dr. Lanyon, Torrin Thatcher as Sir John Turnbull, Rex Savon Noakes as Miss Dr. Wright, Gilly Fenwick as Poole, Elizabeth Cole as Hattie, Duncan Lamont as Sergeant Grimes, Paul Harding as Constable Johnson, Oscar Homolka as Stryker, Billy Whitelaw as Gwyn Thomas, Tessie O'Shea as Tessie O'Toole, and Donald Webster as Garvis. Now, it keeps it a basic plot, and you all know that, an elixir causing him to have a split personality, a lot of Gothic tropes. Now, Dan Curtis decided to make a film of Jekyll and Hyde around the same time he was doing Dark Shadows and other macabre productions. The great Rod Serling wrote a draft of the script, and Jason Robards was the star, with filming to take place in London. Robards, of course, didn't commit to the project because he was unhappy with the script. Filming in London proved difficult due to a technicians' union strike. Filming was pushed back, and Roberts decided to drop out, unhappy with the script. Now, Curtis decided to get a new script and find a new star. And the script, of course, Ian McKellen Hunter put it together. Curtis had discussed doing another project with Jack Palance, who agreed to take over the lead role. The producer decided to film in Canada, where it would be cheaper than U.S., of course, on the positive exchange of the dollar. Now, filming took place in Toronto over a speedy 7 weeks in 1967. Curtis had to pay $200,000 to build a replica in Washington Square in Toronto. But unfortunately, Palance was injured while filming a stunt. And he talked about that. He said he had great memories of Canada, but not with that injury. The budget for the movie was big for its time, at approximately $900,000. ABC paid for approximately half of this. The show, again, drew heavy critical acclaim, and it was nominated for 4 Emmy Awards: Outstanding Dramatic Program, Outstanding Performance by an Actress Supporting a Role in a Drama, Best Graphic Design, and Best Makeup. Now, according to the LA Times, Palance signed on for the project in late July 1967, but there was rumors about having problems on the set. The Times did a lot of coverage as well, and talked about its debut in early 1968. Now, some people thought it would be ready for Halloween, but it didn't work together. Now, if you want to find out more about the movie, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, has a link on IMDb. And Charles Jarrott, a good director for his time, a very, very competent director, who really brought it the atmospheric aspects that was needed for such a production. Now, Jack Palance, like I said, he was doing a lot of major roles in what he called the established entities. But ladies and gentlemen, my God, if you're looking for somebody to play 2 characters of a major role, Curtis, not say Jack Palance was his muse, but the thing on television. Now, this product again production began shooting with Robards in a title role, and makeup that was heavily influenced by John Barrymore in the 1920 silent version. Production again was halted due to a strike, and filming was able to resume. Robards was not available to continue. Now, when Palance took over the Jekyll and Hyde role, the makeup concept was radically changed, inspired more or less by that of a satire. Now, during shooting, Jack Palance suffered an on-site accident where he fell during a chase scene and broke his left arm. A careful examination of the last scenes, as Hyde would reveal, he does all of his action with one arm. Now, there was more makeup on Jack Palance than met the eye. Makeup artist Dick Smith corrected Palance's broken nose as Dr. Jekyll with a small foam latex prosthetic appliance to give him a more handsome appearance. Now, the majority of the background music, you're going to love this, is the same that was used for Dark Shadows, also produced by Dan Curtis. In fact, the music playing when Dr. Jekyll first visits Gwen Thomas at the pub is the top 40 hit Quentin's theme from Dark Shadows. Now, we still don't know why Rod Serling was left the project, but he said he left the production prematurely. Now, aired as an installment of ABC's The Wild World of Mystery, and according to here, it also repeated in two parts on July 1st and 2nd, 1974, so in repeats were very popular. Now, in other details on the movie, the straw in Jekyll's laboratory floor and the sawdust on the operating theater's floor were conventions of the 19th century used to minimize the mess made by chemicals, fluid and blood that would wound up on the floor, which could then be quickly and easily gathered up and disposed of. Now, Director Curtis's approach to the story was unique at the time because of his choice to focus on Jekyll's theory of man's brutish, more id-like nature, as opposed to previous productions which chose to portray Hyde as a hideous monster because of the more visual appeal on film. Now, this TV movie has many of Dan Curtis's hallmarks that his supernatural productions became known for. Multi-camera videotaping instead of film, live audio recording, dark lighting with deep focus sets, and the same musical motifs that were repeated in his other productions on into the 1970s. Now, Curtis chose to set the time of the 1886 story in 1888, which coincided with the year of Jack the Ripper. Now, Palance's maniacal but restrained laughter as Mr. Hyde is a direct homage to his own performance as Chief Gladiator Torvald in the 1961 production of Barabbas. So, Dan Curtis, this one, there was a lot going on, and at the time, ladies and gentlemen, to my memory, this was the first major Emmy nominations for a Curtis production. There was some question if there was leftover sediment because of the cancellation of or near cancellation of Dark Shadows, but Dan Curtis was drawing a very, very good reputation as the Gothic go-to guy in Hollywood. Dark Shadows, again, was in the height of its popularity when this came out, and Jack Palance was a great international star because of Shane and other productions. And again, if Jack Palance had a male muse besides Jonathan Frid, it was Jack Palance, because Palance, again, brought the over-the-top aspect that you saw. Now, a lot of people believe he was asked to appear in Batman as a homage, Tim Burton's homage to his love of the Curtis oeuvre. And don't you know later on that Tim Burton, again, did Dark Shadows, the movie. Coincidence, I wonder. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our Dan Curtis podcast, as a tribute to the great creator, producer, director, please let us know with a like, comment, or subscribe. Have a good evening, and if somebody's knocking on your door, make sure it's not the ghost of Jack Palance. Please listen to our podcast channel. Thanks for listening. Bye.